Hi guys, so as we get closer to the general election, the political parties will set out their stalls in the hope that they will convince their base to remain loyal and perhaps win over a few voters from the other side. Now, with talk of a Liberal Democrat manifesto containing a call to rejoin the European single market, which is definitely good news, there was some reaction from Brexit supporters. Now, Ben Kentish took a call from a man named James, who claimed that he didn't vote to leave the EU because of immigration, but it seems a lie, one of the many that Boris Johnson pushed regarding bananas. Have a listen to this.
You know, I'm not saying that being in Europe was 100% perfect, but what is in politics?
But people will say they voted leave in order to have controls on immigration, and they don't want that reversed within years of it coming into effect.
Well, you can't have everything in life, and as a leaver myself, you know, I left not because of immigration. Mm-hmm. I left because of the control thing and the bananas have to be such and such a length, and cucumbers and all the rest of it. You know, there was a lot of what seemed unnecessary, red tape heavy legislation being part of the European
But James,
Union.
what's changed then? Because that argument hasn't changed. If we go back into the EU, all the things that you voted to get away from will still be the case. So what's changed in your mind when it comes to how you'd vote now?
Well, what's changed in my mind and what's changed my mind is the fact that I have seen Sheila Fogarty had a guy on who was a businessman on her programme this afternoon, and it's the first time that I've heard anyone, and I listen to LBC every day of the week, it's the first time I've really heard anyone give a positive to leaving. But as he was saying, he said it's because what was promised hasn't been delivered. He was only benefiting slightly because he's an importer and an exporter, and it was something to do with the levy that he can now apply to his customers when he's bringing goods in. But for the average man and woman in the street, you know, you can't say that if you walk into a supermarket that life has improved, because as everyone has experienced, you know, prices have just gone up and up.
You can get half the items you went in the supermarket for in the first place.
The supply problem, you know, is a massive issue because that's what's fueling our food price hikes, because obviously it's like anything. When something becomes scarce, the price could be jacked up because there's less of it to sell.
Oh, yeah, and that's one of the many downsides to cutting ties with our closest trading neighbour, James. And that's why I personally think going back into the single market sounds like a very good idea.
Okay, this call was extremely confusing for a number of reasons. So first of all, he said that he voted to leave the European Union not because of immigration, but because of bananas and cucumbers, which makes no sense. But it seems Boris Johnson's fib about bendy bananas refuses to die. Now, he also mentioned about, it was the red tape, but Brexit red tape has increased. The amount of red tape for importers and exporters has dramatically increased. And it's not just the red tape, it's the cost related to that. So if the UK was back in the EU, back in the single market, that red tape would disappear pretty much. So I don't know how being outside is a benefit when it comes to red tape. But he also mentioned how a caller to another show on LBC, Sheila Fogarty, said that he found Brexit hadn't been implemented correctly, okay, but also that he had found a benefit through some sort of levy. But a levy is a cost. How can it be a benefit adding an extra cost that's passed on to the consumer? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Which of course leads us to the main point of the Liberal Democrats. The Liberal Democrats proposing to return to the single market. Now, I've mentioned before there are massive problems with this. If the UK wants to be in the single market, there are a number of different ways, but there are two real paths back into the single market, and that's through EFTA and the other is through EU membership. Now, EFTA is pretty much closed off because a number of small countries in EFTA would say no to that. They wouldn't want a massive member like the United Kingdom as part of EFTA, because then they would have less power in that bloc, in that group. Another problem is, of course, EU membership, because it seems to be off the table within political parties like the Labour Party and even the Liberal Democrats. Nobody's talking about rejoining the EU. So in order to be part of the single market, you have to adopt the freedoms. it makes more sense to be part of the EU than being part of the single market, because at the moment the UK is a rule taker. If you join the single market, you're still a rule taker. If you're part of the EU, if you're an EU member, then you're a rule maker like before. So it makes more sense for a large economy like Britain to be in the EU first and not in the single market first. But also this idea of rejoining the single market only. And people will point to Switzerland, for example, or maybe San Marino. But San Marino is a tiny economy. The amount of trade between the EU and San Marino is minute. And then when it comes to Switzerland, the EU have said that they don't want to go down the road of Switzerland again, because it's been a massive pain in the backside, because it dragged on for decades. And it has to be reviewed constantly. So the EU don't want to go down the road of Switzerland. So I don't see the UK joining the single market. It makes more sense for it to join the EU and then the single market. But I understand the political approach to this. Sell the idea that, you can join the single market in order to reduce some of the trade barriers, improve relations with the European Union, and then at some later stage say, yeah, we can join the EU. I understand from a political point of view why you would sell this, but it's not honest and it's not fair. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.